Good evening. I would like to call the Committee of the Whole meeting on Monday, August 28th, 2023 to order. Are there any additions to the agenda? I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as it's written. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? So moved from Art. Is there a second? A second from Ms. Walcott. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The agenda is approved. Comments from the public. Board Secretary, are there any comments from the public for this meeting?
We do have one comment.
What?
We do have one comment.
We have one comment from the public? Okay. In accordance with Section 1640 of the meeting procedures.
It's not for this meeting.
What's that?
It's not for this
I can't hear you.
It's not for this meeting.
Not for this meeting.
It's not for this meeting. It's for the board meeting.
There is none? Okay. All right. Treasurer's report for July 2023. Madam President?
Yes, we have a number of presentations that we're going to be covering today that cover the resolutions that will be brought forward. We'll start with the Treasurer's report, and we'll follow that with the temporary staffing services contract, followed by the Beanery renovation purchase award and the cosmetology nail technology renovation.
Hello, there we go, all right. Good evening, trustees, Madam President. The Treasurer's report for July, we had a total of $9.2 million in spending in July, 4.7 out of the general fund and 4.5 million out of all the other funds. Keep in mind, this is the first month of our fiscal year, so we have a new budget. I would like to go over just a few highlights of the budget and what we're compared to the prior year. So we do have a $86.4 million revenue budget compared to $87.4 million in the previous year. The biggest change that we have in the revenue decline is in the state appropriations UAL. You'll see that there was 6.6 million budgeted last year and 4.1 million this year. Keep in mind that is a pass-through. It is not any revenues that we are able to use for our purposes. On expenditures, our total budget is 86.1 million, 86.5 was the prior year. You'll see some changes in that UAL pass-through again as far as the budget number goes. Decline in contracted services and materials and supplies, and then an increase in utilities and insurance, which I presented to you when we adopted this budget. On the balance sheet, you'll see that our total assets are about $705,000 less than they were the prior year. Mainly due to our lower accounts receivable balance. The liabilities and net assets are statistically the same as they were in the prior year. So that ends my Treasurer's report for July.
Are there any questions, trustees? Seeing none, thank you very much, Larry. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Madam President, Chair, and trustees. I'm here to go over the board resolution regarding the temporary staffing service contract, the purchase award. So before you is that board resolution. The college followed its normal process pursuant to board policy 4410 for obtaining competitive bids based on quality and price. The college must have access to staffing agencies to help meet operational needs where appropriate. The purchasing department and HR partnered to complete the competitive bidding process to ensure vendors are in place prior to the expiration of our current contracts, which is September 30th of 2023. So after a cross-functional committee evaluated and scored the submitted proposals, the top 3 vendors are being recommended for board approval. Those 3 are 22nd Century Technologies, Abacus, and NTech. With the board's approval of the enclosed resolution, the college will be authorized to enter into agreements with these 3 vendors. Are there any questions?
Trustees, are there any questions? Not seeing any. Your presentation that we got to see the video of was very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Larry, yours was too. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Madam President, members of the board. Come to present two purchase award resolutions to you tonight. The first one that I will go over, I believe is in your packet, involves the coffee beanery relocation. As you know, the renovation project is upcoming, and we are getting ahead of that in assuming that that building would be offline. That would bring our primary food service location offline, and we would like to move that over to the Beanery, the current bistro, the bistro area, which really for us sets a few benefits in terms of a location that's, we believe, a better location than the current Prawl Center where it's located here. I also talked about food being on campus. I've talked to this board throughout the year about ways to bring students back to campus, ways to attract students back to campus. One of the #1 things I hear from students is you have a limit on food. And it's hard to be here all day with an on-campus schedule with limited food options. And so for us, this accomplishes that and helps us meet the student need that they have shared with us. Next slide. So again, this is a straightforward ask and project. We believe that providing a bigger space, the bistro space, for those who don't know, currently is a ready-made kitchen space. It's a bigger space, which would allow us to have a bigger menu and a better selection of food. The location for us really serves students well. We have most of our in-person courses in the Curtis Mott building, which is convenient for students going through the bistro. And working with those particular students who are in the culinary program in conjunction with the Beanery would also allow them to get micro-credentialing and other opportunities around short order cooking and other things that we don't necessarily do in the fine dining curriculum that we offer in Applewood. Also, just some highlights of the project. I mentioned that it would move over into the Curtis Mott building. The mechanical aspects of it, we would need to replace the existing kitchen hood, the rooftop heating, air and cooling, the existing water heater. These are all outdated. Of course, we would move equipment from Prawl into the bistro, but we would need to do some modifications to the counter space to add more coffee stations and more space for students to go through the bistro. Also, from an electrical consideration, the current panel board is full, so we would need to add a new panel board and a new transformer. We would look to extend the circuitry life the best we could with the current circuits, the current wiring, the current conduits. And we would also look to run a new rooftop air unit and air-cooled compressor. But we did find that the lighting in that area can be used moving forward. And then the last shows the competitive bid process with the winner being Case Construction. permission, Mr. Chair, I can go on to the second, or would you like to stop and take questions?
Stop right here for a moment. Are there any questions, trustees? Seeing no questions on the Beanery, let's move on.
Thank you. Next is the cosmetology nail tech program location. Justification of this project. The current lab space where the nail tech program is located is in our Visual Arts and Design Center building, the VADC. It's in a classroom that was originally not constructed or configured for the kind of ventilation that is needed for a nail tech program. We're dealing with fumes and you know, those kind of strong aromas coming that are generated from 20 nail stations in that particular room. In 2015, we attempted to solve for that by installing an external fan to try to ventilate the air inside of that lab by essentially blowing it out or sucking it out of that room externally. But that solution is you know, reached its shelf life at this point. We're at a point now where faculty and staff report to me, the president, other leadership, that they can smell the fumes at times through the hallways, in some instances right to the front door of the building. So the fumes have gotten really strong where they're currently located. And we believe that continuing attempts to augment a space that was not originally built for this type of a program would not be an advantage to us and may prove to unnecessary additional cost. So highlights for this particular project, we're moving this lab over into Curtis Mott as well, into a bigger space, 1301. 1301 really offers us a taller and wider space to have the same number of nail stations. This new renovation would come equipped with its own HVAC system due to the 20 stations that would be in the lab. And the new stations, as I alluded to in the topical information sessions, would have their own exhaust capability at the station. So our current stations are desks. They don't have the exhaust fans to deal with ventilating the chemical smell at the desk. Our new stations would have that. We would also be renovating and installing a new air duct system which would allow for those fumes to travel outside through the roof. And again, in terms of electrical, the existing panel board is out of date, and we would need to replace the parts. We would need a new electrical feed for that HVAC system, and we would need new LED lighting for that particular project. And then finally, for this project, benefits. Certainly the quality I've already referenced in terms of our students that are taking courses in this lab and in this program. This program continues to be a full program. So despite the strong aroma and some of those hurdles, this program continues to have a large wait list of students to get into the nail tech program. We also have an advantage in terms of moving this program into Curtis Mott, where we have our other cosmetology programs where our students study everything from basic cosmetology to aesthetics. And so having all three of these programs located adjacent to each other would encourage students that are interested in basic cosmetology to perhaps get certified in aesthetics or get certified in nails or vice versa. You create really a intersecting pipeline of enrollment possibilities. And finally, this for me is the big win. Even though we're going to come out of the VADC, we can use that room. We just can't use it for a nail tech lab. We can use it for a basic cosmetology room which allows us to grow the cosmetology program by another cohort size. And we're looking at 40 students that we can add to basic cosmetology. So moving out of VADC into Curtis Mott and then repurposing VADC so that we can grow our programs. And then the last page shows the competitive bid as well. And I'll take your questions, Mr. Chair.
Trustees, are there any questions? Mr. Reyes.
What do we do with the odor's not gonna go away? It's just gonna be vented out the roof. Is there any indication as to, will that be able to be smelled from the front of the building, as it comes off the roof? Or what kind of?
So outside of the building, ventilating the air outside, we haven't heard any concerns around the smell being outside when people are outside. The main issue is when it's inside. And we even went a step further to that point, and it's a great question. We wanted to make sure that even though the fumes were strong, that we in fact were safe. So our risk management specialists called in an air quality testing company to test the air to make sure that it was safe and that the fumes were not toxic and hazardous in that regard. And that test came back clean in terms of the air in VADC. So we believe if we can ventilate the space better, and the main value add to the new renovation is that the stations themselves will be able to ventilate as the actual chemicals are being applied versus the chemicals sit at the station and have to travel essentially in the room. So the idea is to lessen the smell on the inside and get it out to the outside where we have not found any issues. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I had a
Yes.
question. When you say that we have a large wait list, what are you talking, years?
I'm talking semesters. Right now, the last I checked, about a week ago, for the nail tech program, there were approximately 22 students waiting for a full program in the nail tech program. And that's the case with the other 2 cosmetology programs. I'm actually efforting hiring additional cosmetology faculty because of the demand. I recently have hired additional cosmetology. I'm finishing a hiring search on 1 cosmetology faculty. I hired one in the winter. I anticipate continuing to hire based on the growth of this program. The collective number is 75 on all 3 programs. So, thank you, Stephen. Stephen is the dean of those programs. I did not know he was sitting behind me, but that always helps. So there you go.
So, just to recap, we moving to 1301 in the Curtis Mott. We're going to be able to expand the program out. And we'll have additional space over in the Visual Arts Building where we're going to expand that program out, and we have people on the waiting list. Sounds like a very positive program that we're working there.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding this? Seeing none, thank you very much. Madam President, is there anything else?
There is nothing else.
Okay. Trustees, would any of you like to make a comment at this time? Seeing none, we will now adjourn the meeting until our regular board meeting starts at 6:45. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. I'm going to stop because you guys are looking confused. I want to make sure I haven't misspoken. Is there something that you're thinking, Art?
Yeah, I don't think you can just declare us adjourned.
What's that?
You can just declare us adjourned.
They give you the script and it says that I'm supposed to do this.
Oh, okay.
So I was just making sure I was covering everything there.
Okay.
So Without any opposition, the meeting is adjourned. Good evening. Now call the Mott Community College Board of Trustees to order. All those that are able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. As we do not have a flag in the room tonight, the flag would be in this, about that direction where the Perot Center is. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Are there any additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I have a question about the items under unfinished business. I don't see anything within the board packet regarding items 1.59, 1.60, or 1.61.
1.59, 1.60, and 1.61. That's correct?
There's nothing in our board packet.
I don't believe they have them prepared yet. They are going to give reports. Remember at the last meeting, Michael, I had said, we'll see what they're going to do. So they're going to make a report and tell us what they've done,
Who are they?
and we'll go from there. Remember, we gave
Who
Wendy
are-
the authority
Who-
to make the appointment for the board secretary. So she will make a report on where she's at with that. Jeff will make a report, introduction on what he's doing on that. And then we'll also find out what's going on for the board attorney.
Okay.
So there's really no paperwork at this point for that.
Just point of order. Boards operate based on consensus. That individuals are not charged to make individual decisions, that we as a collective make decisions.
You're absolutely right, and we did at that last meeting. If you go back and review the meeting, the motion was made and it was approved that Wendy would make an appointment. And you will recall, I said, let's
I
see
don't
what she's
think
going
I
to
would
do
ag-
with it.
I don't think I would agree to an individual, like I never have made an individual
I believe,
decision
Mr.
on
Freeman,
this
your vote
board.
was in opposition to that.
I-
If there's anything new or fresh to add to this,
So
we'd be happy to
basically,
hear
we
it.
are not going to follow procurement?
The board has made a decision on that. That's
So-
where we're at right now.
So board
We're hearing a
policy,
report.
though, is that we follow procurement. Yes? And we also, if we're really following board policies, I think the CFO specifically states that the CFO is actually the designee. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We will.
But
Thank you.
governmental entities should and do follow procurement. So basically, compensation is not going to be discussed.
We're going to hear the report from Wendy, and then we will know. And we'll hear from Jeff, and we'll know.
Well, I make a motion that 1.59 through 1.61 be tabled until we actually receive some written materials.
We have a motion on the floor. And we have, Art, did you second it, or did you just move to do it? You seconded it, okay. And we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying yes, and all those opposed, no. All those in favor?
Yes.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
No. The noes have it. That's on the agenda. Is there anything else for additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we get done at 8 o'clock this evening. I'm sure people have things to do early in the morning. I know I do. And if we could finish up at 8 o'clock.
So you want a motion to end the meeting at 8 p.m.?
Yes.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll definitely second that.
And we have a second from Janet Couch. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Freeman?
we were elected to this office to do the work of the college. And if we do not complete the work of the work of the college does not proceed. So I understand. I don't like being here late. I have a life and a job and stress and you name it, but I think putting a time constraint on it, I mean, I think we can work to be expeditious, but if we do a hard stop at 8, then potentially important things could be left off the agenda.
Thank you. You look like you have something to say, Art, and I'm going to make a suggestion. Mr. Swanson, if at 8 p.m. we haven't got through all the business, can we extend the meeting out in your motion? Okay? So your motion now would be to adjourn the meeting at 8 p.m. unless we extend it by a set amount of time?
Well, yes, what I'm looking for is, last meeting we had was 5 hours, 5.5 hours, and, you know, we started at 6 o'clock, or 6:45. You know, I've probably got another 3 to 4 hours worth of work to do tonight at my business, so I just would like to be
Okay,
speedy about this.
thank you. To make sure we do this correctly, do we need to rescind the former motion? Okay, we're going to rescind that motion, the first one. Now we have, and you agree to withdraw your second for the first motion. And now we have the new motion that it goes to 8 p.m., but if we need to, we will extend it by a set amount of time as need be.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
15 minutes, half an hour.
Okay,
I think you
all
should
right.
be,
Is there a second
I
for
think
that?
you should be clear on,
Speak loud
I
for
think you
me.
should be clear on the motion, though, on the time you would like to end.
Okay, the motion will end, or the meeting will end at 8 p.m. unless it is extended by a vote of the board. And is there a second?
A second.
And we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying nay. No.
Nay.
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 The ayes have it. Is there any other additions to the agenda?
It was
Excuse
3
me.
and 3.
It failed.
I'm sorry?
It failed.
It failed.
I'm sorry. Okay, roll call vote. Sue Couch? Aye or nay?
Aye.
Aye. Michael Freeman?
Nay.
Art Reyes?
Nay.
Wendy Walcott?
Nay.
Jeff Swanson?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So it fails by a
It
tie.
fails. Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else, additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion for the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying nay. The ayes have it. Are there any communications from the public?
There are no communications.
Okay. Are there any comments from the public?
There is, Chair, there's 2 comments, or 2 comments have been submitted.
There's 2 minutes. Okay.
The first one has been submitted by Bobby Walton of Davison with the topic of management procedure.
Okay. Before the public comments are made, all citizens who wish to address the board or wish to communicate with the board in writing shall identify themselves and/or the group they represent, if any. They must also state their reason for addressing the board. Citizens addressing the board shall be limited to 5 minutes in making their remarks unless the time is increased or decreased by consent of the board. A brief supporting the remarks made by the citizen may be submitted to the board for its consideration. The board may limit the number of persons wishing to address the board on the same subject to 3. The person will now come forward is Bobby Walton.
Yes, Bobby Walton from Davison, can you hear me?
Okay.
This is my comment to the board and to the president. Thank you for listening to me. As I sat and listened to the last discussion and the few motions that you just made, I realized why I have adopted Mott College as my project for the year, perhaps the next 2 years. I am very disturbed by the way this board operates, and when I said I wanted to talk about your management procedures, it's because I believe you are failing in your fiduciary responsibilities to the staff, the faculty, the students, and the community. I'm going to read from my comments, and I may conclude. If I run over 5 minutes, please, thank you. I value the importance of community college. I valued it in my own education. I value it because it is adding to our economic growth. I value it because it promotes civic education in our community. I value it because it brings us together to solve community problems and to address our needs on the ground, and you're here where the action is. Yet, according to a recent study which I read about in the Detroit Free Press, Michigan community colleges ranked 49th in the nation in college completion. The Free Press reports, quote, business leaders of Michigan said that a high-performing community college system will be essential in the effort to boost the number of jobs, increase income levels, and grow the state's flagging population. But the state is severely behind and still failing. And that's the end of the quote, which is why I have taken Mott College as my special project. I can see the need to keep our economy growing, the availability of affordable education at hand, the inventory of a trained and educated workforce locally supplied, and make the continuation of the positive atmosphere on the Mott campus possible. Every decision this board makes impacts on the ability of the staff and faculty to meet our community's needs and the needs of students and businesses. You have a fiduciary responsibility to us, and yet you continue to make decisions that are either unethical or immoral. Ethical decisions are those that meet our rules, laws, procedures, and regulations. Moral decisions are those that you know are either right or wrong according to your own standards. I'm a retired professional in government management. Good government and good management are my obsession. I got a lot out of watching the adoption of your budget at the last meeting, and I would dare to say there weren't many people that did. I got a lot out of it because, to me, budgeting is the source of all your plans, all your policies, all your values, and exactly where you place the importance of yourself in our own community. The questions asked and answered gave the process and met my needs for well-managed and ethical government. I thought it was an extremely well-presented budget. I thought the questions that were asked were smart and the answers given were thorough. Yet, you turned around and violated your own bylaws by adopting a motion to replace the ethical and legal assistance provided by your bylaws for the board treasurer and the secretary, without any consideration of the impact on public trust. Following another of your wrong-headed decisions, you took a delegated authority from your bylaws, and the authority for supporting your treasurer and your secretary are in your bylaws. And you proposed to place that delegated authority in the hands of some unknown person or persons. I suppose you proposed to do your own search for the persons you would delegate to the title of Designee in the duties and requirements of each of these officers. And as I listened to you earlier, that's exactly what you proposed. And yet, have you considered the legal requirements of hiring persons and funding positions, and are you being ethical? I would guess right now you're not. If you had a board attorney, you might have had some legal advice on this decision. Yet we know why you do not have a board attorney, and I will continue to make public my assertion that you violated every impulse that good management demands when you fired your attorney. I wondered then, and I still do, the reasons for the decision to fire Amber and the rumors that you have your eye on dismissing your president. You decided at your first organizational meeting that you were going to fire both of them. And I have the article from MLive that states that exactly. You decided that, shame on you. Bad management decisions made when all of us deserve better from you. Thank you. Oh, and I will follow up by saying I have the information from the Higher Learning Commission, which provides the accreditation for Mott College. And believe me, if they knew how badly you were managing your fiduciary responsibility, they would be here immediately.
Thank you very much. Jordan, is there any other speaker?
There is, Mr. Chair. We have one more submitted comment from Sean Murray. The group organization is Taxpayer out of Flint, Michigan. And the subject is board roles. Dear Board of Trustees at Mott Community College, as we know, the role of the Board of Trustees is very important and has got great impact on current and future students, as well as employees, administrators, faculty, and the community at large. It is a role that should be taken seriously, stemming from a place of knowledge with respect to the educated. There is no room for improper behavior, indulging in personal vendettas or political agendas. The behavior of the chairperson and some of the newly appointed board members has sent a chilling message to the students, employees, and the community that there is an agenda which lacks transparency, honesty, and integrity. Since January 2023, the current board's behavior has proven to be concerning. There are several points of concern, but for the purpose of this communication, I will focus on the following. Continued lack of decorum from Andy Everman, lack of knowledge and transparency, gross wastefulness of college resources, hiring consultants to teach Wendy Wolcott and Jeffrey Swanson how to do the jobs they agreed to perform. Andy Everman has repeatedly disregarded the knowledge and professionalism displayed by the leadership of Dr. Beverly and others. Most recently was at the June 2023 board meeting when Dr. Beverly was trying to speak and was continually ignored and cut off by Andy. Under Andy Everman, the meetings are extremely difficult to follow and they are entirely too long. Mostly because under Andy, it is clear he does not know how to run the meetings accurately and efficiently. When voting, it is obvious Andy Everman does not understand the process. For example, roll call should be conducted by Jordan Kaiser, a neutral party, and then the vote should take place. It is unfathomable that someone who is voting on issues should also run the vote. Another example of Andy's lack of integrity and honesty is when he tried to put forth a vote at the June 2023 board meeting that is not up for a vote until 2025. This type of dishonesty reeks of personal agenda and lack of integrity and is not acceptable. Andy Everman comes across as having a personal agenda and vendetta. The college is suffering because of his lack of leadership, efficiency, and understanding of how his role should be conducted. Andy Everman is unfit to sit on the board, let alone to be the chairperson. In addition, there's a lack of knowledge and transparency among some of the board members, for example, the termination of the board attorney. Lastly, initially Wendy Wolcott and Jeffrey Swanson complained that Jordan was not helping them do their jobs, etc. Then they changed their stance and defended him and stated he was doing a great job, which he is, but the ridiculous accusations led to their request, which was to hire an expert for them to complete the jobs they agreed to. It is extremely difficult to understand how they do not know the role of the secretary and treasurer. The names of each speak for themselves. The things speak for itself, and they in fact do not understand their appointed roles for which they wanted and accepted. They certainly should not hold these roles. If you are not able to reference what a secretary or treasurer does in this capacity, and you do not take the initiative to look at how the previous secretary and treasurer completed their roles respectively, then why were those roles vied for and accepted? To hire outside consultants for their basic roles is unacceptable. If they cannot figure out how to complete these roles independently, then they should be removed from them. To further the point indicating the lack of integrity and honesty, it was appalling to listen to Andy Everman tell Ms. Wolcott and Mr. Swanson that I gave this to you, I can take it away. And he also indicated that if they do not adhere to his directives, he would take these resources away from them. This is not a dictatorship, nor it is an authoritarianship. It is appalling how they allowed him to speak to them in this manner, even worse in a public forum. To be clear, hiring outsiders in this capacity is gross negligence and a waste of schools' finances and should not be tolerated. It is incompetent and concerning if they aren't able to figure out what a secretary and treasurer's responsibilities are without additional assistance. While Andy Everman and others will try to dismiss the comments from the public as always, when they are not favorable to him and the chosen few, they cannot continue to dismiss the facts and their inadequacies. It appears as the newly appointed board members are asleep at the wheel, it is a detriment to the college and community. With all due respect, they should do and do be better. Signed, a concerned citizen.
Does that conclude the comments?
That concludes comments.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that last comment. Required the auditor's communication. We have two individuals from the auditing firm. Would you please come forward? Good evening. Make sure your microphone's on and using it. Green light.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Chris D. Agostino, manager of Raymond, and Michelle Fowler, principal of Raymond. And they're going to be giving the board an overview of the college's upcoming independent audit, which is scheduled to begin on September the 14th. I know that you all saw the overview of the background that they provided at the topical session, and so now they're just going to share the questions and things they need to share for the board.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so again, I'm Michelle Fowler. This is Krista Agostino. Chris is the manager. So you all should have received in your packet the professional services plan that goes through and has all of this in writing, which summarizes the scope of the audit services for fiscal 2023. Also has the due dates in there so everyone knows what the timeline is, as well as the timing of the services to meet that deadline. Thank you. Also, we have some key audit and accounting matters of interest that are required to be communicated to you before we begin the audit, including any significant risks of material misstatement that we've identified, and some key new accounting pronouncements that impact the college this year. And then also we have in this packet the contact information for the key members of the audit team if you do need to reach them. So starting on page 1 of the document, we do go through and summarize the scope of the services. And so what we will be performing this year would be the financial statement audit of the college, which also includes its discretely presented component unit, the foundation for Mott Community College. We will also be performing a separate audit of the federal funds that the college receives. So that's basically called a single audit. And then we'll also be providing to you in writing at the conclusion of the audit our required communications for the results. So this here would be what we have to communicate to you before the audit, and then we'll have another letter that summarizes the results of the audit that we'll provide to you at that time. All right, so then let's go ahead and we can go to the due dates that would be on page 2. And we are going to focus on, we have information in here for the foundation, but we're going to focus on the community college. So if you look at the bottom part of page 2, you can see that based on the timeline, we will be providing draft reports of the financial statements by October 13th. And so those will be provided to management, and then as well as that draft communication that I had mentioned. And then for the final reports, all of that will be done by October 20th. So you can see that at the top of page 3. And then as I had mentioned before, in order to meet those deadlines, we have the timing of the services. So yes, we did already go and perform some of our planning procedures for the college. That would have been during the middle of June. And then we will be back in mid-September to late September to complete our final field work. Any questions on that before we, okay? All right, so there are a couple of things that I do want to point out for the key audit accounting matters of interest. So basically starting at the, really just going through each of these are all minor items, typical items. The one thing I do want to point out would be on page 5, which would be the final item. I had mentioned before you have the single audit, which would be the federal awards programs for the college. We will be determining when we come back in September, when we have that final schedule of expenditures of federal awards, to determine the major programs that need to be detail tested. And so then we'll have that report when we finish the audit in issue in October. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and in the middle of page 5, would be the significant risks of material misstatement that have been identified. So we are required to communicate these during planning. And so the items that we have listed here for the college, these are the items where it is presumed that you have this audit risk. So the first one that we have listed would just be the fraud risk for management override of internal controls. And the second item would be for improper revenue recognition. So we have to presume under the audit standards that those are fraud risks, and we go through and we design our audit procedures to mitigate or address those potential risks. The other thing that we have here, which would be that second bullet point that would be new this year, and this all surrounds the new accounting pronouncement that's applicable to the college for fiscal 2023, and that is related to subscription-based information technology arrangements. So if you remember last year, there was the new lease standard, so that would have been GASB 87, where the college was required for certain leases to take those long-term leases and put those on the statement of net position. This is basically the same thing, this GASB 96 for these IT arrangements. So for these long-term arrangements, if they meet the criteria, those would need to go on the statement of net position. So because of that, you have this liability for those future payments. We have to look at that as a significant risk in this year of implementation. But this is consistent with all of our our public community colleges. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, so we already went through the important new pronouncements. And then as I had mentioned before, if you look on page 8, we do have the contacts listed, so you can see myself as the engagement principal for the college. We have Chris here as the audit manager, and then also Evan Rummel is the single audit supervisor. So it is very important. We understand that we work for the board. We don't work for management. That's why it's so important that you have our contact information if for some reason you do need to reach out to us directly. And that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on this document or anything related to the upcoming audit process.
Trustees, are there any questions you have at this time? Mr. Freeman.
So a question, just given some of the conversation we had earlier. Most colleges, universities, governmental entities do have procurement policies, correct? Do you audit or do you look at the procurement policies as well as part of your audit, or?
So what we will do as it relates, if we have a major program for federal funding, and if we would have to make sure if there were certain expenditures that had to follow procurement, we do look at that policy to ensure that it has all the elements that would be required, and then we also ensure that those were followed. So we would do that as part of the single audit, depending on the major program and the expenditures.
If they didn't follow the required policies or requirements, then that would be found as a material weakness, or would be significant?
It would be a finding, but depending on the dollar amount and the nature, that would determine the level of the finding. So it would have to be a material non-compliance for it to be a material weakness, or a material weakness of internal control over compliance.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Swanson.
So,
Make sure you speak into the microphone.
excuse me. So, when this audit starts, will you be getting with each trustee for a list of questions they have or concerns that they have? Do you go to every trustee for that?
We do not do that individually. We do give you the opportunity at this meeting if you have questions or concerns, or if you need to reach out to us, we do have our email and our phone numbers, so you have access to us. But we don't solicit that. The one thing we do is that as part of our procedures, there'll be certain board members that we'll reach out to make fraud inquiries. We need to do that as part of our assessment of any risk for fraud. But other than that, we don't reach out separately.
Okay, the
But you do
reason-
have access to us.
Reason I was asking, I talked with Trustee Daly today, and he was curious about that. He said in previous audits he's been involved with, that each trustee they reached out to each trustee, and he just wanted to know if that was going to be the case here. So.
Yeah, typically, we would not reach out directly to each one.
But we'll make your phone number, emails available to everybody.
Yeah, yes, so that's why we have that in the document, so if someone does need to reach out to us, and if there's any questions they have, or any, concerns they have for the upcoming audit, they can reach out, yes.
Thank you.
Just to reiterate what Michelle had said, Jeff, it's on page 8 of the document, and it has all the contact information for you there.
Yep.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments to the auditors? Seeing none, thank you very much. Have a
Okay.
good evening.
All right, thank you.
Treasurer's report, item 1.55. Madam President?
There have been no questions submitted.
No questions? Is there a motion from the members of the board for item 1.55, the treasurer's report?
Move to accept.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any comments? Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed signify by saying nay. I voted aye. Motion passed. Temporary Staffing Service Contract Purchase Award, 1.56. Madam President?
No questions have been submitted.
No questions submitted. Is there a motion for item 1.56?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion passed. It's just, I'm not sure I got all that because I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I guess I want to do a roll call vote on that. Art, would you, A or nay?
Aye.
Aye. Michael?
Aye.
Aye. Janet? Aye.
She said nay.
Nay? You said nay? Okay. Wendy?
Aye.
Aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Aye. And I'm doing an aye. So the motion passes. 1.57, the Beanery Renovation Purchase Award. Are there any questions, Madam President?
No questions have been submitted.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Support.
We have a support from, is that Art?
I made the motion.
You made the motion and Michael
second.
seconded it. Okay. Is there any discussion? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question on, does this break even, make money? You know, what,
The funding source that goes with it goes to scholarships for our students in the culinary area.
okay, but it makes money.
I'll let Larry talk about that, so.
Andy, turn your microphone on.
So as Dr. Beverly said, any profits that we receive from the Beanery, from the downtown location and the current one in Prawl has gone to scholarships. So the question of does it make money? For me, this is the answer to it, is that without that, if we do not have the coffee beanery or another service, we have to get another service that would come in to supply this. This has become an amenity for the college and not a profit maker. So the profit maker days are gone. When we had the first iteration of the bistro that was operating, we were able to charge rent, and they took all the expenses. We went through, closed it, someone else came in, they weren't able to make money to the extent they wanted subsidies. The last one that we had come in wanted $125,000 a year to start as a subsidy plus a management fee to run the bistro. So this alternative with the space sitting idle and being able to utilize bond dollars and providing opportunity for our students, as well as any net that we would get for scholarships, is the best option for the college. So I understand what you're saying from a business standpoint of taking revenues and expenses. Do we allocate overhead? All those type of things. We've never done that in an educational institution. But the options are we either pay somebody else, and like I said, it's an amenity now. It is not a profit maker for any college to have a food service come in.
I understand that. If it's a dead loser. Oh, I'm sorry. If it's a direct loser, that's one thing. The fact it needs to at least break even or not cost a fistful of dollars is all I'm getting at. Because evidently we pay somebody to run it, correct? We run it, okay.
We run it, and our students help in the culinary area to run it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I need to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Freeman.
So in our presentation, we were told that feedback from students is that they need to have a source or a place to get food, right? I mean, and you diminish the student experience if you actually don't have facility for them to purchase food. And I don't think, I mean, essentially it sounds like we're running it ourselves. We found the skinniest way, correct me if I'm wrong, to actually run and provide that service versus having somebody else come in and do it and charge us, what, $125 to set up and then ongoing management fees?
Yeah.
Which it could cost us more.
Oh, for sure. They want P&L support too, meaning they want to be made up for their losses if there's any losses. And they take like 6 or 9% off the top plus the management fee. So it's, the proposition is the food service, which you're right, Trustee Freeman, is that any survey that comes is about food offerings on the campus. So we've had vending that's been, and our current vendor, the vending company, has been very good about working with us and trying to provide options, fresh options. We tried that, the pizza machine. We tried to do that with the pandemic coming back and not knowing what students we'd have on campus. But we're at a point now is to have food options on campus. Either we can try to do it this way, which we think is the best way because it includes student involvement and we have employees that are running it, versus having a sole source or a third party come in. And I can almost guarantee you we could go out for a vending bid right now or for a food service bid, and I can almost guarantee you we probably would be very limited in who would want to come in here because we don't have the population of students anymore that we did here.
Okay.
To give you some more insight into this, Jeff, in past years when we did this, the first thing we did before we enclosed the area, I don't know if it was Larry's group or another group that came in, they did a survey. What's the most traversed area in the college? And that was it. So most students travel through that area. And we have had since the 1980s, because I've gone to the board meetings since the 1980s, a problem with any restaurant, whether it was in the basement of the Parole Center at one time, or it used to be at the end of the Mott building. There was a little coffee room there. I think that's where the Cheryl's group is at now. But nothing ever made money for students. And when it was down in the Parole Center, it was a nice place where people hung out, students hung out, talked, got to know each other. And if you come through during the day on our campus, you're going to see a lot of students hang out there. I believe it's Jason's group that has put the ping pong tables and other things to engage the students. And so it's part of the college experience. And yes, all colleges lose money at these things, but it's what we do to help the students, because quite often you have students that are coming from work. This came up the last time I was on the board. Students that are coming from work and the best they could do is buy something out of a vending machine, which wasn't our pizza machines at the time. And so we really needed to do something to help them, and this was the way we've done it. So a past history of how we've ended up, it's a no-winner, no-win situation. Are there any other questions or observations? Thank you, Larry. Item 1.57, we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. I voted aye. The ayes have it. Item 1.58, cosmetology nail tech renovation. Are there any questions that were submitted, Madam Chair?
No questions submitted.
Okay, is there a motion to accept 1.58?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any discussion? Yeah, I saw your hand kind of, yeah.
I have a question, I guess to Dr. Beverly. How long, well, we've known we've had to do this for how long?
I'm thinking that we've just gotten the assessment done. Jason, you come on, because they've gone through a number of steps of trying to negate the smell and to add enrollment for the nail tech. They've also, like you heard him say, looking at the purity of the air, and that just came, I want to say, like a month ago back. And so all of these things have been taking place. So, you know, now we've come to the decision that this is what we need to do. They've been looking at it for...
This summer is
Yeah.
when the issue hit critical mass. Our faculty, our staff let us know that the smells were just becoming overpowering throughout the building. And so the steps that I kind of went over to really investigate it and see what would be the best course of action has led us to this course of action.
You have another question?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
What's the timing?
The timing for getting it done?
Right.
Okay.
And I may have to let our facilities speak directly to the timeline. We do know that we want to, with your approval, begin the process of the project. And we know that the biggest thing right now in renovation and construction projects is supply chain and supplies. And so I think we do have an estimate on that. I saw Rod.
Board Chair, Dr. Beverly. Yeah, so we're looking, if board approves, we're looking to start in January, December range is what we're looking for right now to go. And Jason is correct on the supply chain. So that'll dictate the amount of time it takes to implement this whole project. If we can get our hands on the material we need, maybe a 3-month project. If we can't, it could drag out to a 6-month project. So that's our current estimate.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? The motion passed. Item number 8 on the agenda, the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second? Okay. Is there any corrections or changes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. The minutes have been approved. Informational standing reports. Finance audit. Mr. Swanson, you had no meeting?
There was no meeting.
No meeting. Personnel?
Yep, we met last Wednesday. The other two couldn't make it. I was the only one that was there. We still had the meeting. And if you guys would like to see the agenda, they're back there on the table.
Okay, thank you very much. Other reports, the MCCA Board of Directors. That would have been Mr. Daly up at Traverse City. As you'll recall, he was unable to make it. Jeff was unable to stay for that meeting, and so I attended the Board of Directors meeting. I'm going to put my earpiece down. I'm going to get out the report, what happened, and so we will all know. But I believe there's at least 10 copies here. This will also help take care of questions that people from the public have had that we are not involved and engaged with the report that came from the Detroit Free Press and News. As you're all aware, where our college rated, there was a report that came to each one of you from the president prior to us attending the conference in Traverse City. And we've all been aware of that. We're all aware of the report of Kellogg College and how they are classified as the #1 community college in the state of Michigan. We are not. And the community college on the west side of the Upper Peninsula actually gets the best rating for getting students through. We don't. But let me put my earpiece down so I can get this report for you for the first meeting.
Mr. Chair, point of information. How does this pertain to the MCCA meeting?
Mr.
Point of order is, like, how does this pertain to the MCCA meeting?
This is the Board of Directors report from the MCCA day. Elise would have given it. Daley was not there.
Well,
I was, so
just-
I'm giving the report.
Just go ahead and put we want an expeditious meeting. I mean,
You want to know what's going on and where the future of
Provide it.
community colleges are at.
Provide
I
it.
am trying to assist not
Okay.
only this board so that they make good decisions in the
I
future.
thought we just asked for an
That is what
expeditious
the
meeting,
report
so-
is about.
Okay.
Each of you now have the PowerPoint presentation that was given to us. Please take the time to go to this in the future. It will be beneficial to know what we're going to be doing. There's a desert in the state of Michigan where there are not community colleges, and we're looking at a plan on how we can facilitate portions of the state that do not have that. Jordan, I need some more assistance. The next meeting took place in Dearborn. It was progress towards the 60 by 30. Susan Corbin, you've got enough. You might want to go through these at a later date so you're aware of what the plan is to achieve the 60 by 30. 60% of our population with an associate bachelor's or some training by 2030. The governor has put together a plan. It was delivered to us down there. If you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me in the future about it. That takes care of the MCCA report. Mr. Freeman, if you have any questions, be glad to take them now. None at this time. The ACCT Board of Directors, Mr. Reyes.
The ACCT Board of Directors met in July for our annual retreat, and what we did was we received information that would allow us to be better prepared for the Congress, which is upcoming in October. So they just went through some of the various, the procedure for the presentations that will be given during the Congress in October, the opportunities for that, once again, being able to give 25 free retreats to colleges across the country, members of ACCT. But the information was in line with that.
Thank you. As each of you that were in attendance in Traverse City, you will recall during the presentation that I believe, Mr. Reyes, it's 75 that they're going to offer throughout the United States, and that colleges can apply for them, for workshops on how to be a better board of trustees.
It's 25 per year.
It's 25.
Yeah, there's,
Okay.
well, the end total, we were looking at 75, trying for 75 or 100. We would do it over a 3 or 4 year period. Last year, there were 24 given. This year, we were looking at doing 25 and then again 25.
And the deadline is September, is it not?
Yes. Unfortunately, Mott is not eligible for that because I sit on the board of directors. None of the colleges that have board members on the national board are eligible for the free
Okay.
thing, so.
So, given the fact that we're not allowed to get a free one, there is a meeting that will take place in December 3rd and 4th in Lansing from the Association, American Association of Community Colleges Trustees. I think I pronounced that wrong, ACCT, is putting that on. I believe it's the 3rd and 4th of December. Is that correct, Mr. Reyes?
The
It's
specific
with the
dates
Michigan
escape
Community
me,
College
but
Association.
I think it's the 5th and 6th of December,
Okay,
in conjunction with the MCCA, correct?
very good. So, board members, if you have not considered it, please consider it. It will be a good training opportunity for each of us. Item number 3, the Governor's Higher Education Summit, which is what you just received the report for, which was the progress towards the 60 by 30. Unfinished business, item 1.59. I've put that down as introduction of Secretary Designee. Trustee Walcott.
I would actually like to make a motion.
Pardon?
I would actually like to make a motion. Can you hear me? Did you hear me?
No.
I would actually like to make a motion
A motion? Okay.
that Dr. Beverly help me with the vetting process and duties with this, so that we can make sure we're doing this the right way with no liabilities.
Okay, so your motion is that Dr. Beverly would assist with the vetting process?
With helping me with the process to make sure we're doing this the right way, so there's no liabilities.
Jordan, could you get that motion down?
With the motion, what would she be assisting with? So when you say Dr. Beverly would help assist
Their
with the
procurement process, exactly on,
of its our secretary designee.
right.
Okay. So if I put
Support.
I've got to turn my microphone back on. Is there any discussion? Mr. Freeman.
So I think that we as a board need to start being a little bit more careful and make sure that we're doing things the right way. We don't have an attorney with us at this point who actually is giving us counsel and interpretation of our board policies. I think the comment that was made during public comment was very appropriate about the Higher Learning Commission. We are part of the accreditation process. We will be reviewed, we will be interviewed, and they were gonna ask us very hard questions about our understanding of board policy and procedure. And if we fail the grade, we fail the college, right? So we are as important as far as evaluation and from Higher Learning Commission. And any day they could come up on our step and they could interview the board and they will look at every single action that we've done, and they will scrutinize those actions to see whether or not we're following policy and procedure. We have not had an attorney here, and that makes me very leery, because I know that everything that we do will be scrutinized. And I don't want this board to be the reason that this college loses accreditation. So we need to be extremely careful on all these matters. And quite honestly, we had and I was there for the last board president search. I was there for the last time we procured an attorney, and we had an outside attorney that came in, assisted us in the process because they had no desire to actually bid or to put in a proposal. So they were unbiased. They guided us through the process on how we objectively select a board attorney. So, and that's something that we should all have input on. We should all be able to weigh in on who exactly is, representing us, that they have, that we all have confidence in who's being selected. So that's why I definitely support the motion that you have put forward, because this feels like surgery, and we're using a butcher's knife instead of a scalpel to make changes, right? So I think every action that we do, we have to think very carefully, and that we are not personally responsible. So thank you.
Are there any other comments? There's been a motion made. It has been seconded. And we will have, yes, Jordan.
Can we go over the motion one more
I
time?
can't hear you.
Can we go over the motion one more time, just so that everybody's aware?
She needs to read the motion one more time. Is that what you're saying?
Do you want me to read the motion back? So I have trustee Wolcott motion to request that Dr. Beverly would assist trustee Wolcott with the procurement process of finding a secretary designee.
I'm sorry, Madam President, we can't hear you. For the record, please turn your microphone on.
I just shared that he only gave half of the motion. She
The
missed
other half is for
liability.
liability purposes.
We have the second from Mr. Freeman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did you do the aye? Okay. All those opposed, nay? The ayes have it. Okay, item 1.61, item 1.60, introduction of treasury designee. Treasurer Swanson?
Yes. I would like to make a motion that, well, before I make the motion, let me state a few things. I agree with you on the whole board making the decision, okay? I don't have a problem with that. It just seems like things take so damn long that I have been looking, and I'm gonna recommend somebody that will go with whoever the board comes up with also, and then we'll vote on them. But I make a motion that we have that, the next meeting, we have vetted people, and we vote on them in the next meeting.
Is that your?
Okay. I want to understand the motion because I'm not sure I got it, or maybe I didn't do it. Please repeat it. So Jordan gets it.
Turn your microphone on. Andy, turn your microphone on.
My microphone's off.
Yeah, mine's on.
And there's backfeed really bad, so I'm having difficulty. No, I said this is off. Mine's off. But I can't hear.
I will repeat that. I make a motion that the next meeting, we bring this up and we have everybody vetted that anybody has an idea who they want. And then we, after we discuss that, then we vote on it.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
So would it be any person that's been vetted by the board member with the name that's been brought forth? And then vote on the members that have brought forth the vetted people, and then you vote on a final person? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Does that solve the issue you have?
Motion on the floor.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I can talk during discussion, but you need a second for your motion, and then
Is there a second for the motion?
Well, I would wait until we get the motion certain.
Okay, so you,
Okay, the way I wrote it, and you can correct me, Trustee Swanson motion to allow each board member the opportunity to bring forward a vetted candidate for treasurer designee, and allow the full board to vote on each vetted candidate at the next regular board meeting. At the next board meeting, regular board meeting. Correct.
The September.
At the next, yeah, at the next regular board meeting.
okay, we have the motion now, correct?
Yep.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
And we have a second from Wendy. Any discussion? Mr. Freeman?
So basically, your question. The reason that things take so long, I agree. It is frustrating, but it's a frustration we've caused for ourselves because we lack any infrastructure to do the process, right? So soliciting bids, get scoring criteria, getting them to board members. There's a lot of mechanics in procurement that we have an infrastructure from the college that we're over, and yet we refuse to use that infrastructure for some reason of mistrust that they're not professionals and they can't do their job effectively. If we ask them to solicit bids, come up with qualifications that they can recommend to us, like we can decide on the qualifications, we will do the scoring. We decide who we pick, but we have an entire department that does this all day long that we could use, right? So with the attorney search, and that was another thing, when we looked for the attorney last time, the board set the criteria. We said, this is what we want. These are the priorities that we have with our legal representative. They articulated that into a scoring framework, gave it back to us. They collected all of the bids, the proposals. We got to take them, review them individually, come up with scores in a public meeting. We showed our scores, and that's how we can't, it's a process, because really what I see now happening is that we're just gonna come up with names and throw them in the middle of the table, and I don't know that we're gonna come to any conclusion, because we don't, we just say, hey, I like this guy, okay, your guy wins. that's not objective. You know, I want to look at costs. I want to see who's actually providing us the proposals with, you know, the best cost point. We need to be fiscally responsible. We should be looking at that. We should look at previous experience and qualifications, you know, all the things that you want as treasurer to be articulated for you. You know, you can lay it out, and then our procurement, or the department that does procurement, could set everything up for us to make that decision. And September, all that's gonna happen is we're gonna have a bunch of names of CPAs or other financial professionals with no, like, what are we gonna evaluate? That's my issue. And we could be doing this on everything. And the reason that things are taking so long is because we aren't using the resources which are available to us to make it go quickly. We could give a timeline and say, all right, we need to have a board attorney. You know, this is important. We need to have a board attorney by next month. Who here is actually going to run that process? Who's going to figure out, like, you know, we had like 8, 10 different attorneys put in proposals, and we decided that we all wanted to look at every single one of the proposals. That took some time, and we had to do it on our own time before the next meeting. So that's why I'm frustrated, because I don't know where this distrust is coming from. You know, at the last meeting where we didn't have public comment, you know, I was a little bit embarrassed because it's kind of like we're all acting like we're the experts and professionals on running community colleges, and I'm looking at the people in the audience who do this every single day. Like, this is their work. This is what they do all the time, and they understand the frustrations, the problems, and we don't always ask all the right questions, and we also, many times we make presumption that something's being done wrong or poorly. But I mean, this whole question of like even the college, and like, why aren't we the best in the state? Well, I don't know. You know, look at the number of students who come in who require developmental education, that they're starting at the first rung on the ladder. So there are reasons why it takes us longer, or the work here is harder. But to presume that the college is doing something wrong, it's embarrassing to me. So like, I beg all of you, just change your perception a little bit and look at the people who are in the audience who work for the college that depend upon us to make good decisions, and give them the respect they deserve. If we want to procure something, we can work with the college to do that. There's nothing nefarious about it. There's nothing where they're trying to jam somebody down our throats. I mean, Jordan's already here as our secretary, but he's not. You know, Larry, I guess, isn't, you know, good enough to explain the information in a way that, you know, you feel like you don't trust what's being said. Maybe trust is the big problem here. And I'm working really hard with my other board members to show you who I am and to trust all of you. But what I'm hearing sometimes is a little toxic, and it's very disturbing to me. That's it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Are there any other questions or comments? Yes,
I'd like to answer to Michael
through the chair.
through the chair. Well, I understand what you're saying. I trust Larry, that's fine. But all I was asking for was a firm that had nothing to do with the school that we would call if we had a problem, and have them look into it. Not a full-time CPA firm. We have that. You know, but there will come times when something just isn't right, and you need to go outside for that. That's all I've been asking for. Yeah, and I have no problem, if you wanna let them, do the due diligence, I have no problem with that. But it needs to be done, and you know, we voted on this last month, and we need to get started on it, or else it's just gonna hang out there forever and ever. That's all I'm saying.
So maybe,
Have you concluded your comments?
yes.
Okay. Mr. Freeman.
So perhaps perhaps the motion that we should be making is, like, you articulating the fact that you want to have somebody, like a second, like a doctor's second opinion. I think that's fine. You know, but now we've just articulated what we want, is to have somebody that we can ask questions to, an independent person. Now, all we have to do is tell the college, can you help us put together, you know, this proposal? And then even if we just get 3, like 3 is actually acceptable procurement, right? So if we get 3 different firms that could say, hey, I'm on call if if I am needed, this is how much I charge per hour, you know, and then we can figure out what our budget is for that. I mean, this is good governance. And I think doing something like that, the motion should be, we would like to ask the college to assist us in the procurement of this service, which we can use, you know, as needed. And then they can help us write this up, get some proposals at the next meeting. Likely, if we're just looking even for 3 competitive bids of this second, we probably could get that done by the next meeting. And then we come up with at least a scoring matrix and, you know, ask them to say, hey, what are the core competencies? They've got to be a CPA. They have, you know, 5 years or 10 years experience. They have academic, you know, experience with academic institutions. We can take a look at it, review it at the next committee meeting to say, yeah, the scoring criteria is what we want. We get 3 different proposals. We can all rate it. And then we come together and we say, these are our scores. And I think that's a process. There is ways to do process that we've done in the past that we can still do. And that's what I'm asking everybody to do. So.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, sir. I will.
You've made a motion. A motion is on the floor. And I have a comment on this that might or might not help explain. For example, Lansing Community College has another CPA firm that helps the board when they have an interest in a deeper dive to an item that is on the budget at the college. Their treasurer is Robert Proctor. He's had a discussion with Dr. Beverly and I about helping us with a workshop. That is an idea of where I think you need to go with this. And the final analysis, I believe it's Jackson Community College also does the same thing. And I think it's Kalamazoo. I could be wrong on those, but they have a firm that is not in-house that assists the board when they have questions. And they want to know more about what's going on. I believe the person that runs the Michigan Community College Association, the trustee this year, is Robert Proctor. I have introduced you to him in Traverse City. I think it's worthy of a full discussion with him, how his college is doing that and how that is set up to work, because it's something that they do routinely. That's where I think would be the best way to go with this. But you need to move forward at this point with where you're at. You've made a motion, it's seconded, and then we can, in the meantime, you need to talk to Mr. Proctor. Yes, Jeff?
I have no problem rescinding that motion at
Okay.
this time. All I want to do is, and we'll do it any way that we need to do it. When we need some extra help, we need somebody to call on. And I will talk to Mr. Proctor about that.
Okay.
You know, that's all I've wanted all along. I apologize if you thought I was trying to strong-arm you. I'm not. So I will rescind that motion right now.
And the second is taken back?
You were sent to?
Please direct
Okay.
to the chair.
I said that. I said that in my motion, that Dr. Beverly and I do this together to prevent all the liability things, and then,
We're a different topic.
Okay, yeah, take it back.
Okay. Item 1.61, procurement of board attorney. I'm sorry, who had a question?
Art had his hand.
Art,
I'm not sure that it's proper with the motion being rescinded, but regardless of the conversation that happens between trustee Swanson and trustee Proctor, if we're gonna move forward with this, the procurement process still should be followed. So regardless of that conversation, I mean, a motion similar to what trustee Walcott put forward earlier might be something that moves us in that direction.
I see your point. We need to give the school the go-ahead to do the due diligence. Okay. I make a motion that we allow the school to do the necessary due diligence for a CPA firm to help us when we need help. Help the board, yes.
okay. Is there a second?
Support.
Is there a second? You're supporting it, but you're not seconding it.
Second.
I
You got a
support his
second.
motion. Right, second.
Any discussion? Jordan, you have the motion, correct?
Could you repeat that, trustee Swanson? Right now I have the motions to allow the college to do its due diligence, and can you complete that after that? I didn't get the rest of that motion.
To bring candidates forward for consideration.
You want to talk to Proctor as part of that?
Well, yes, I want to talk to them.
Okay, well then you need to be engaged in this process too. Make sure that's there.
I'm sorry?
So you're going to engage Dr. Beverly and the college to assist, but you also want to talk to Robert Proctor,
Yes.
okay?
And I will make it a point to talk to Anna very soon.
Okay, so the way the motion I have right now is trustee Swanson motions to allow the college to do its due diligence to bring candidates forward for treasurer designee.
It's not really good.
And we have a second.
That wasn't easy. It was to work to bring the process to hire a fund or funds to support the Board of Trustees when they have a question or concern. And trustee Swanson will contact trustee Proctor to understand Lansing's process.
Okay, so I have trustee Swanson motions to allow the college to do its due diligence in hiring a firm to support the Board of Trustees for when they have a concern. And trustee Swanson will contact trustee Proctor to understand Lansing Community College process.
It's question or concern. Question or concern. Okay. And you got the support of Michael.
Please read the motion again.
Trustee Swanson motions to allow the college to do its due diligence in hiring a firm to support the Board of Trustees for when they have a question or concern, and Trustee Swanson will contact Trustee Proctor to understand Lansing Community College's process.
A motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. All those in favor, we'll start with Janet.
Yay.
Aye. Michael?
Aye.
Art?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
Jeff? Andy? Aye. That has passed. Item 1.61, procurement of board attorney. Madam President, can you give us an update on what is going on with that?
We have not met to discuss the procurement of the board attorney.
Do you
Mr.
have
Chair?
any recommendation, Madam President?
Yes, can you hit that, please? Yes, I believe that the board needs to follow the process that we have done in the past, where you come together and share with us what is it that you're looking for, so our procurement department can follow through the process, so that you all can get a pool to make a good decision.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Freeman?
I'd like to make a motion. I would like to follow the same process that we did the last time, that we procured the legal services. Actually, a lot of the work has already been done for us, so right from interview questions, scoring matrix, that the college assists us in getting this out because we need an attorney. It needs to happen now. I agree with you. It's like we can't wait. We have a process that we can follow that is democratic and that everybody gets to provide feedback. You know, we can look at the one thing that would probably change would be the scoring criteria that we would look at because times change. And so we might need certain things more than other things. And so we can get that scoring matrix that we originally used. We can kind of discuss like the weight of it. There again, we can move this process forward. But we need help to do this, and we can use the procurement, the people who do procurement here at the college to assist us in that. But the decision is 100% ours. So you can do a Cliff Note version of that one.
Cliff Note version. It was my understanding when we
My
voted down.
My motion's on the floor, isn't it?
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
We have a second. Discussion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none from the board, I will remind you, we had a attorney that was brought in as an interim to assist us. We had board members that were adamantly opposed to that, and the vote was taken not to do that.
Were you here? Point of order? Or
I'm not
point
done
of
speaking,
information.
but when I
Point of
complete-
information, were you here when we made that selection? Because actually, there were two firms, you know, there was Blaha's firm and there was a local firm as well. And actually, it was a very split
Mr. Freeman?
discussion.
Mr.
I'm
Freeman,
giving
you're
you a
not
point of
discussing what I'm
I'm giving
talking
you a
about.
point of information that you're providing us incorrect information, which I'm giving you the correct information. But actually, the board was very split because there were attorneys on our board who wanted to use the local one. So it just came down to probably one vote at that time, but it was not contentious, and actually it ran extremely well. And so we just had the one firm come in. I forgot the name of the firm that we used, but they organized us because, you know, they just helped us through that process on the interim basis. It was not contentious whatsoever. The final decision was contentious because there were people who just wanted to use the local firm. So, but there again, we don't know who's going to put in bids or proposals, so.
As the senior member of this board, with a very good memory, I might
No,
add.
I am.
That's
I've been
what
on
I
this board.
said.
I've been on this,
As the
thank
senior
you.
member of the board, you're talking about something that took place prior to this board being seated. When this board was seated, I brought forth an attorney that could help us. It was Jeff Himmelhall, as you might recall. He handed out his business cards. And you, Mr. Freeman, and others decided that we didn't need an attorney. And when we go back to those minutes, we can find that it is clearly stated by Mr. Daly that we didn't need an attorney at that time.
I would ask the board chair, please do not misrepresent what took place. This person was a surprise, and we were not even introduced. We didn't know who he was. He showed up, and basically, you, as an individual, decided to bring this person that was not the leisure of the entire board.
Just as you did, Mr. Freeman, when you were chair of the board the first time, you brought an attorney in,
And everybody
had
was
him
fine with that attorney.
after the fact. Now, back to what we need to do. We were told by Mr. Freeman earlier that we would be out of compliance by not having an attorney. And that it is potentially possible that we could suddenly have the accreditation come in and ask us some serious questions about why we don't have an attorney. In addition to that, our president of our college told me that we are out of compliance with our board policy. Therefore, I have brought some information for us on a law firm that can assist us while we go through the search. We can have them as interim firm so that we can get this taken care of. According to our policy manual, I was required to ask the president for her recommendation for the board attorney. Seeing none, I make the recommendation that we secure the services of this law firm. Mr. Jordan, please pass those out.
Excuse me.
Until we have
Excuse me.
gone through the process.
You've never asked me for a
I did this
recommendation
evening.
for,
I asked for your recommendation. You had none.
the recommendation for a board attorney?
Yes.
You asked me what work we had done.
And I asked, what was your recommendation? And you gave me none. Seeing none, we have to come up with an attorney to assist us through this process.
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about because you
Okay,
never
we need an
asked me
attorney.
for a
Mr. Chair,
recommendation.
I have a question. Why wasn't this information provided to us before this meeting? I put my original objection to our agenda was the fact that nothing was provided. You could have articulated a process or recommendation. You could have provided us with this information beforehand. I don't have time to sit here and look at this entire proposal
Okay.
or this qualification.
There is an opportunity. If there is a motion, I would entertain a motion to hire
I believe I have a motion on the floor
quickly.
already.
Do you have a second?
I-
And we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Mr. Freeman's motion signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. If you have a question, Janet, please use your microphone. Please turn it on.
Yeah, could
You would like the motion repeated?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mr. Jordan?
Short version was that we secure the assistance of the college to assist us in the process as we did before. The last time we did the search, we'll do it the same way again.
So just to give you some reference, in the May 22nd meeting, there was a motion that was passed that was brought by you, and the motion was to approve item 1.39, follow the process and procedure in the 2019 procurement process where the board weighs in on the scope, experience, and scoring of the proposals as it pertains to hiring a permanent attorney. And Trustee Ray has seconded it, and then it passed.
So we've already done it.
So we've already done it. That's what I explained to you a moment ago. At this point, with this
you didn't.
individual
You didn't.
is to try to get them to work with us so that we can go through the entire process with the college and get the job done. We have many things that have come up that we need a board and attorney for, and we haven't had it. This is an interim until such time as we have gone through the process and appointed one.
So no community college experience.
Please look at
Is that correct?
his entire
Is
firm's,
that correct? No,
look
I'm
at his
looking
entire
It's
firm's,
municipal government, it's not colleges.
his,
Where?
look at one of the people that is in his firm that
Page
does do
5.8.
it. Is there a motion? I am looking for a motion to accept William Brickley and his law firm as our interim legal counsel.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a question. Can I ask a question before the motion?
Go ahead.
Thank you. How long will it take for the college to do the same way that we did before?
Madam President, has the RFP been sent out?
No, sir, you all have not met to put together what you would like an RFP to say.
Have I asked you if there's anything else we need to be aware of or doing at the meetings when I have met with you?
Why would I be doing that for you?
I've asked you 4 times at each meeting. Mr. Swanson has been at the last meeting when this happened. Wendy has been at others trying to move things forward, and you've not helped us with anything.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
So, yes.
Point of order, would you please stop bullying the president?
It's not bullying.
Yeah, you're
It's a
bullying.
matter
You
of- it's an
actually,
affirmation
you
of a
actually
fact,
have
Mr.
not been
Freeman,
clear, and you
are
have
out
not
of
given
order.
clear direction.
You're out of order,
You are
Mr.
bullying
Freeman.
the college president.
You were supposed to be doing it during your retreat, which is supposed to have been taking that whole time to go through the process of what you wanted to do. That was what the board voted to do. So I would not have been coming and saying, you've got to do X, Y, and Z, because you voted that you were going to have a retreat solely on the board attorney. So Katie, if we did put out something very soon, how long does it stay out there?
I can actually have something written before the end of this week. We can post it onto BidNet Direct, and I would recommend leaving it out there for no less than 10 days. And so 10 days after, we can go ahead and have all of the RFPs in, and we can begin the process of interviews and such. I just need to know specifically what criteria you all are looking for, so I can write that into the RFP so we get the right attorneys and not just anybody.
Can we use the information from
Please, Mr.
before as an
Freeman.
example?
Direct your questions to the chair, Mr. Freeman.
Can we do that?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Thank you.
Yes, I would recommend that we take what we have done before. What I would like to do is take a look at the RFP. Once I get the list of criteria, the things that are most important for a board attorney for everyone from the Board of Trustees, put that into the RFP. During that time, while it's posted, I would recommend that each of you then take a look at the matrix, because it does need to be updated. We'll also take another look at the round of interview questions, so that way we're prepared when the RFPs or the proposals do come in.
So my question would be to the board, would you be willing to move that fast? Because you have to be willing to come in and to do those things. We can move as fast as you want us to. So everybody's saying
Sue?
yes.
Would you like to move that fast?
Personally, I think that we should have an attorney. Right away, we should vote, whether it be an interim or whatever. but we need an attorney. We're sitting here as a
Mr.
board
Freeman,
without an
order.
attorney.
Do not be making fun of the
I'm
fellow
not making
board
fun
member.
of anyone, I'm smiling.
There's a
You're out of
bullying
order. I'm
policy
sorry.
in the
You-
board
you are-
manual
I'm
in dealing with
smiling.
other trustees.
You know what, you are bullying, you are a bully.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Freeman.
Yes, thank you, proceed.
Well, I'm just saying that we're sitting here as a board without an attorney. And we do need an attorney. And so I think we should get hire an attorney tonight. That's,
Mr. Freeman, are you willing to work fast to get this done? That was the question that had been asked. We were polling the board.
It's a lot of work. I mean, to do it really fast, it's gonna be a lot of work, but I'm fine with that. I'll
Okay.
do it. I did it
Mr.
before.
Reyes, I saw you shaking your head.
Yep.
Okay. Wendy? Jeff?
Yeah, I can do it either way, but I do know that we need an attorney. And if it cannot be done quickly, I would suggest that we get a interim attorney, just so that we're represented. You know, it doesn't have to be the one we're gonna ultimately pick, you know, what would it hurt to get an interim? So that, because, you know, we're taking a lot of heat because we don't have an attorney. We can deal with that tonight and take that heat off. We can go through the process, do it the proper way, and then come with a final board attorney.
My recommendation would be to do the number 2. The person after Blaha, the second highest scoring one based on price and everything, and use them as the interim unless they intend on bidding again on this, because then they're not gonna want to, because they won't shepherd us through the process, but we could ask them. Was it Seaman Figura? Was that the second?
I'd have to look.
Yeah, it was, so Seaman Figura, they're a local firm, but if they want to bid on longer-term engagement, then look at number 3.
How would we go about finding this out?
Pardon?
We could just ask.
You know, I didn't know there was 2 attorneys, that was prior to me.
We could ask
But-
our procurement to talk with them.
But I do know that we need an attorney. You know, I would be fine voting for this firm to get an attorney.
At least we've vetted one of them. I mean, like,
Mr. Freeman,
so,
please be recognized
Yeah.
if you're going to be speaking.
how's it feel, Andy?
I'm sorry, Mr. Freeman, please be recognized if you wish to be speaking.
Yeah.
And make sure it's germane to the topic.
Oh, you just asked me a question. I was just saying that you expect behaviors of me that you never expected of yourself when I was board chair. So I'm frustrated right now. My apologies to my other board members. But I won't be bullied. I won't be lied about, and I will not be bullied.
Okay, Mr. Reyes, do you have a comment?
Yes, the issue that I have with this proposal that we have in front of us is, and I agree, we need to have an attorney, and that is part of the reason why I voted to try to keep Blaha with us in the interim, which they had offered to do, which we would have an attorney that would be able to shepherd us through this process. But this particular attorney, there's one Board of Education, River Rouge Board of Education, that's a K through 12. There's no clients of theirs that are listed here that are a community college or an institution of higher learning. And that is of concern to me, because we are going to have, as an institution of higher learning, we're going to have issues that are specific to that. So we need to have an attorney that at least has a couple of institutions of higher learning as part of their clientele, so that way we're not having to worry about the learning curve. So that's the concern that I have with this particular firm, and I don't know them.
So would it, So would
Is
it
there a
be,
motion
so
to
would it be
accept?
this person, or is it the firm?
It is a firm.
So it's not Mr. Brickley?
It's not just him.
Okay.
So is there a motion to use this law firm in the interim until we have gone through the process?
I would support that.
So we have a motion to hire this firm as an interim to help us through the process. Is there a second?
I second it.
There's a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Reyes?
I reiterate the point that I made. I speak opposed to this motion because this particular attorney shows no indication that he has any experience in what we need for our college.
Is there any other comments?
Mr. Chair, are you going to share that?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to share that this was your personal attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
This was the attorney that I brought in when the board attorney would not assist the chair, when false allegations were made against me that did not fit with what was actually said. So he came in because our board attorney at the time would not assist the chair. Mr. Freeman?
I'm opposed to this motion because of your personal relationship, and he was not acting on best interest of the college. He was acting on your interest. Quite honestly, if you all had an issue with Amber, I disagree with the assessment of what took place, and I think she was representing the college. But we could always, and I doubt that, her law firm is actually looking at having a long-term relationship with us, but there's no reason why we couldn't use Bill Blaha. He wasn't here for anything. We had already engaged them, and then basically we could also talk to Bill Blaha and just assisting us with the process of finding a new attorney.
To help explain, Mr. Blaha was requested that he attend the meeting. Dr. Beverly and I had a conversation with him over the phone. I asked him, he checked his calendar, and he told me he would be here. He did not show up. Any other questions or comments regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, a roll call vote. Janet?
Yes.
Michael?
No.
Just a moment, Art. Would you speak louder? I can't hear you.
Should restate the motion so that everybody knows what you're
Please
voting on.
restate the motion.
Trustee Swanson, motion to hire Goran Luklo Miller as the interim board attorney. Trustee Couch seconded the motion.
Okay. Janet, you still have to vote.
Would you read that again to me?
The motion is to hire Goran Luklo Miller as the interim board attorney.
Pass, or would you like to vote?
Well, I think I'm confused. I thought it was for Berkeley and this firm.
You said board attorney, correct? Is that the motion?
The motion is to hire the firm Goran Luklo Miller as interim board attorney.
Yes, that is who
Oh, okay.
Mr. Brickley works
All right.
for.
Okay, I vote yes on that.
Yes. Mr. Freeman?
No.
Mr. Reyes?
No.
Wendy,
I have a question.
you have a question?
What would be the quickest time if we voted yes, just to save us so we have an attorney? What would be the quickest that we could get this moving? But he knows he's only in this for interim, right?
His firm can apply for the
No, this
position.
guy.
But his firm can apply for the position. The motion is this firm for an interim, but they can apply.
I thought you said it wasn't going to apply.
You had said at the beginning that this is for an interim attorney.
It's his motion. not mine. And he read the motion.
I mean, we've all said tonight a million times how we need an attorney ASAP. But I need to know if this is something,
For the interim term.
Yeah, but
It's a
there
big
are other
difference.
interim attorneys that we can choose too that don't have a conflict of interest.
but we would have to wait until the next board meeting, though.
No, we can decide right now. I already said we could talk to Blaha, or we could talk to the second firm that we had almost selected the first time around.
But that motion currently is not on the floor.
Well, we could.
So this is the
I could
motion
make
on the
that
floor.
motion, and we could have someone tonight.
What bothers me is the fact that he is not a college attorney, he's K through 12. And that's a huge deal.
Look at everything his firm does.
Skim through it, yeah. I mean, this is what I'm saying, this is thrown on us this quick to where I can't go through this whole packet this quick. I'm gonna have to say no.
No? Jeff? Yes, and I'm yes. Motion fails for a tie.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Freeman,
I'd like to make a motion that we contact the second place or the alternate that we would have chosen the first time around. They are a local firm. It's Simon Figura, something. And ask them if they can start serving immediately. And they weren't my first choice, but they're a good firm.
Second.
we have a motion, we have a second. Did we have a second? Did you second it?
Yes, I second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I mean, once again, we know nothing about this attorney either.
Well, they were vetted. They actually had all the experience. They met all the qualifications and requirements.
Mr. Freeman?
Just she.
Mr. Freeman, please direct your comments to the chair. You're correct. This board has no prior information regarding that attorney and law firm either. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote.
I have my hand up.
Oh, Art.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, and it was not the board as seated right now, but we went through the process of vetting. The process was gone through with them, and it came down to one vote. That the other firm didn't, but it was a local firm that has, and they weren't my choice either. But they had extensive higher learning experience. And what we're looking for, in my opinion, my view is that whoever the interim attorney is needs to let us know that they're not going to apply for the final position, because there's an inherent conflict of interest, in my opinion, if they are going to shepherd us through a process at which may benefit them. So that's my opinion, but I do agree with Trustee Freeman that giving them a call at least keeps us in the realm of attorneys that are community college attorneys.
Trustee Lindy.
Just like you said, we have no idea
Right.
if they're even gonna accept this.
Right.
So I don't feel comfortable voting for this either tonight, because we can't just say yes on something we have no clue.
Mr. Reyes.
Through the chair, we need to give the college some direction. We need to say, make some calls. We've already said that we want to do the procurement process and go through, so we've already, which was done in the May meeting. But we need to give some direction. Otherwise, we'll be having the same conversation in September. That's,
Through the
Yes,
chair.
trustee Wendy.
I agree 100%. I think what we should do, because I don't think it's fair for, if I say no to Andy, then it's yours. I mean, either way you flip it, I think what we should do is start the movement on the procurement process. You guys already had some that you had lined up, right, from previous. And then, which we already said this last time, it was on my understanding that it was the same people that you guys voted for last time. I think we said like the top 5 or something that we were gonna go with. So I thought this was already happening, and then I was just waiting to get the call to say, hey, come in and look at this. And then if any of us wanted to add to that, then we could, and then you guys would gladly do that. So I say we just get the ball rolling this next week, like she just said. And if anybody has any attorney that they want to add to it, we can. That way it's fair across the board.
Do you want to explain the procurement process?
I'm sorry.
I asked Larry to explain the procurement process.
So the issue I think that we have, trustee Wolcott, is that the problem we're going to have is what scope of work do you want? What are the qualifications that you want? Those might have changed from the last bid, right? So that has to be decided among you so that it can be properly weighted. Instead of selecting, because the last 5, if we took those last 5, it was based on the qualifications that that board deemed most important. So for you to get together in a consensus of saying X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3 are the most important things we need, and then weighting those, as far as when we get that done, as Katie said, 10 days, right? But we have to get the legwork done. You guys need to come to a consensus on what it is you're looking for. So it's gonna be the same thing as those other 2. What are you looking for? That's the hardest thing in a professional services contract. It's not a commodity. We're not buying pencils or paper, right? We're actually buying skills and qualifications that are unique to what you need.
Mr. Reyes?
I have a question for Larry. Can we get what was the standards that we had for the last time? Can we get those so that way we have a framework by which we can at least start? Otherwise, we're kind of starting with a blank blackboard, and you can see that we're kind of not able to fill anything in. So if we can get copies of that, then at least we'll be able to say, this is still important, this is still important, this is not so important, you know what I'm saying?
So, yeah. Hello? Yeah, absolutely. And we have it. We have all the documentation. I mean, we have spreadsheet upon spreadsheet. Jody, when she did this, I mean, we have a lot of detail, as much as you would want. And the scoring and how it all worked out, the matrix, all of it. And if that's suitable for you, and you guys review that, and we give it to you, and it's suitable, and you say, hey, this makes sense, we can work with this, we can get it out right away.
Art, you have another question?
I'd like to ask for that to happen, so my question is whether a motion would be proper.
That's where I'm going with this.
Okay. Then I move that we ask that the college provide us with the information from the last time, so that way we have a framework by which we can get started.
So, if we do that, if that's your motion, but let's start looking at a calendar for time frame, because we want to get this done quick. So we want to get the stuff sent out to us from Larry and his folks. And then when do we want to have, this looks like it's going to be a special meeting for this particular issue. Is that what you're thinking? So we can move this forward quickly?
My thinking is that we ask them to provide that information to us, knowing, I mean, they've sat through this meeting, they know the importance of it. So if a special meeting needs to be called, then a special meeting needs to be called. If, if we go in individually, well, there's no names, there wouldn't be any names or anything like that on it. We're only looking at the criterion. So yeah, if a special meeting is necessary, then a special meeting is necessary. But I don't want to make that as part of my motion.
Okay, well, I wanted it on the floor, so everybody's thinking this might have to happen. Jordan, could you put a calendar up on the screen for us so we could turn and look at that for September? You might be able to draw one of you guys.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe there's a motion on the floor
Yeah.
already
Yeah, there was
that
no
we
What's
need
that?
to vote on.
Yeah, we're going to, we've had discussion. We need to vote on that motion.
What trustee Freeman still has his
that
motion.
Trustee Freeman has.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
seconded,
Jesus.
and therefore, with what you said, Wendy, we might want to vote this down at this point and then go with what Art is talking about so that we can move quickly. Therefore, you might need to sit there for a minute, Larry. Let's go ahead and have the vote. And so an aye would be to go ahead and do what Mr. Freeman has motioned. A nay will mean we won't, and we're going in a different direction, and we've heard an idea from Art. Jeff?
Yeah, well, hold on.
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
we should restate the motion.
Restate the motion first.
So I have it as trustee Freeman motion to contact Sigmund, how do you pronounce it, Freud, the previous attorney, to be the interim board attorney.
It's Sigmund
No.
Figura.
It's Simon.
Simon,
Figura Parker.
that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so now read the motion.
That's it. Simon Figura.
So read the motion, please.
Simon Figura.
And Parker.
Parker. Oh, okay. Trustee Freeman motion to contact Simon Figura Parker to be the interim board attorney. And trustee Ray seconded the motion.
Okay, so motion's made, motion's second. We've had discussion. There's no more discussion? Okay. So Art has an idea which might not include what is on the floor now. Mr. Swanson.
Even if with Art's idea, it's still gonna take time. And I feel that we need a board attorney right now, so my vote is aye,
Okay.
because it's just interim, so.
Wendy?
Nay, like I said, because I'd rather do what Art said.
Art?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Nay. The motion passes. Were you going to ask a question before we have a motion on the floor, Larry? The motion passed, so we're going to have them. Now we need to make sure we go with Art's idea on how we're going to move forward. So, did you have a question before we did that? Please turn your microphone on and speak into it.
Yes, I will. It was just on that motion. That motion did not have in it that they could not bid on the permanent attorney. Is that something you wanted in the resolution? Because when we make that phone call, I just want to make sure it's clear what we're asking them and be very clear up front with them.
The-
What's
the-
that? Wait
The
just a
motion we
second.
just did was on Michael's.
On Michael's,
Right.
And-
But when he read it, he
right now, the way that motion stands, they can, and Larry's going, we've got to make sure that they can. They're going to be helping us, and you could say they have inside information, prior information, by being our board attorney, while helping us hire somebody else.
It seems like if they're gonna shepherd us through like, right now, the thing that we want is to have legal assistance now. And we have a procurement department that can do the procurement independent of our legal, correct? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to have legal representation to monitor
No.
the procurement. So as long as they don't have any information, or if they are completely aside from the procurement process, like, we need a board attorney to like help us with all the other stuff. So I would say that would be what we will have them focus on, and then we will have the procurement department help us develop the criteria for the new selection process, which, as long as they're outside of procurement, then that's fine. If they just can't have any information that other people don't have.
Wendy?
But again, we're voting on something that we have no idea if these people are even on board with us.
Well, I mean,
Art, I saw yours
It's
first.
what you said earlier is what I like.
No, and we can still do that. I mean,
well, they can say no.
right, they can say
Seeming
no,
to look at us
but
and say-
regardless of whether they say yes or no, I would like to make a motion that we ask the college to get us the information from the last time, so we have a framework by which we can get started with,
We need a plan B.
with our, right. I mean, even if they say yes, that they'll be the interim, we still need to go through our develop a matrix and go through and determine what's gonna be most important for us, so that way the procurement process can move forward. So my motion will be made again, and it's not counter to what Trustee Freeman said.
So just to clarify, you're all happy with your votes on the last motion? Yes.
I do have a question. You had said, maybe I misheard you. I thought you said that if they're gonna be interim, they can't put in for the permanent job.
Well, if they're involved in our procurement, they can't. But if we say you cannot have any action, like, we want a college attorney, and we'll do the procurement outside of it, then they should be fine to bid on it. But if they are involved in the procurement process, they cannot bid.
It's gonna be pretty hard to keep them separate, isn't it? And I believe you stated,
That's a question for Larry. Can we have an attorney who's representing us on, like, our board matters, everything, and then have a completely separate process? Do we need legal involved in our procurement process for the new attorney?
I'm gonna say there's a potential that it could happen, if, depending on what happens through that process. Do we have, everybody look, I mean, all of our contracts are looked at by an attorney, which, if that's a college attorney, we could have a different attorney look at it. There is some overlap in it, yes.
And so,
and that was my concern.
and I was just gonna say, we had an attorney that did not want to be a part of the search that helped with the procurement process. It was Masood. And so they're the ones that helped make sure the questions were right, helped with the tabulations, helped with the interviews, everything. So,
And I understand that. It's just kind of a risk to take that, like Larry said, it's possible they could be involved in this. So I guess asking them if they want to be the interim, I guess maybe we need to make sure that they have no aspirations to be
I'm fine with that.
full-time. And if that's the case,
So-
my vote is good.
Is it good?
It is
Okay,
long,
and let me suggest this. There was a case that came up with this board, and Wendy wanted some clarification and some information from a board attorney. And she would go ahead and vote for it. And we didn't get it. And they went ahead and did the contract without. the Oracle Java.
Mr. Chair,
That is not true.
well,
That is not
that's,
true.
that's irregardless of what, my
The way it's
vote is
perceived.
gonna be the same as long as your motion includes that they're not gonna wanna be permanent.
If they want to be permanent, then I'm fine with not going with them as well. And then I would say this other firm that in the past, if they didn't want to go with us before, if they didn't plan on doing it, they were perfectly capable and they understand how to do the process. So
Which firm was that?
Masood.
Oh.
Masood, and they're in Saginaw.
Okay. Okay, well, we're on voting on yours, and
It's
it
voted
just,
on.
that has to state in your motion that they're not gonna wanna be legal representation for us.
The only thing you can do right now is change your vote. It fails, and he can restate it like that, and then there
Well,
is
then
no
I-
question.
Point of order.
I don't think you have to restate it, he just has to do another motion.
Mr. Reyes, before you ask your question, the president has had, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
All right. I'm not asking a question, I'm making a point of order.
Okay.
The point of order is that it's not required that a vote gets changed. All what's necessary is a follow-up motion.
Right.
Just needs to be stated that.
So,
then-
so, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that in the event that Simon Figueroa Parker states that they want to be considered as permanent, that we would rescind that offer to them, or that request.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Or, did you vote, because I didn't hear?
Yes, I voted aye.
Okay. So that motion passed. Now, you keep raising your hand. What's your next question?
It was not a question. I just wanted to clarify publicly that we, as the college, did follow what the board wanted for Java. We did engage an attorney, and we did work with that attorney. Like I said at the June meeting, until 12:30 at night, negotiating the Java contract with all the parameters that you all had said that you wanted. I just have to lay it out there since it was said that we didn't do it. We did. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe you can go back to section 44, 45 of that meeting. And Mr. Freeman has a wonderful comment in there that if I'd said it, they would have had classes writing papers about me.
Mr.
But
Chair,
Wendy
bullying,
had made a
this is
comment at
bullying.
that time.
Would you please, point of
that
order, point of
she
order, you're
wanted to
bullying.
know what was
This
going
is-
on.
This is
We have point of
not
order.
even part of the discussion right now. You're taking us off agenda.
She's
Point of
made a
order.
comment.
Point of
for
order.
For perfect
Point
point
of
of
order.
information.
Point of order.
Section 44 and 45 of that
We
video
wanted to, didn't
shows
we want
what
an
Wendy had
expeditious?
asked for.
You know, we're trying to make this meeting expeditious, and, you know, we are relaxed on Robert's rules right now, but quite honestly, this is taking too long, and it's not productive. So if we could please move forward so we can actually work out the business of this board, I would be appreciative.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Reyes?
I move that we ask the college to provide us with the framework that we used the last time, so that way we have a starting point in us beginning to pick a permanent board attorney.
We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Thank you, Larry. Administrative items. President's report.
I believe I was asked that if we were running late, that I would not have anything brought forward for the lateness of the hour. So unless you all have anything, I know that with the enrollment is good. We had a 10%, yeah, please, 10% for summer. Right now, we are high as well for the fall. And we're at the last push of this. We have Dr. Nelson out there that's been leading a very good push to get us those students. And so if you have any questions for VP Wilson, we'll be happy to share, but it is looking very favorable for enrollment for the college. Are there any questions?
I'll take your questions.
Dr. Beverly, I'm sorry, if I can be excused, I have a situation at home I have to deal with.
Okay.
Thank you.
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, thank you.
We also have Chief Zeckman, Jamie Zeckman. If she would stand, she's been here now a month. And she's coming to us from Washtenaw Community College as the deputy chief. And she's already been looking around and making sure that we're getting the latest and the greatest for safety and wellness. We also have Al Perry. And so Al, if you would stand. He has been named, and I don't have it here, Jason. Extend, oh, it's up there. Athletic Director of the Year, yes. Wonderful. And let's see. I know that Dale wants to make sure that the board members are here this Thursday at what time?
We have a 7 o'clock breakfast at Snow Museum, followed by an 8 a.m. kickoff program at Waiting Auditorium.
And we'd love to have you all here, so, or there. But this is the kickoff. It's very festive and very celebratory. Hopefully you saw the purple flags on the campus. Dale, can you share about that?
Sure. We were approached by the Genesee Health.
Would you please use the microphone? Please come over so it's a matter of record.
Hello, trustees. When you pulled onto campus, if you came from Court Street, there's some purple flags out there, 1,000 of them. Those are in recognition of International Overdose Awareness Day, which is technically August 31st, this Thursday. There's a local organization that is partnering with Mott to raise awareness, so they're up there now, and there's also some at Southern Lakes on Thompson Road.
Thank you very much. And so do we have new hires and a picture of the new hires? That was my question. If we do, can we put it up on screen? And so this month, these are our new hires. Rebecca, I don't know if you were going to share or Sherry, so.
Good evening. So we do have a few, and I'm just going to introduce them through their profile here. So we heard about Dr. Michelle Nelson. She's our new Assistant Vice President of Student Success. She has many years of leadership in colleges that she's brought to the table, so we welcome her. The next slide. We just heard about Chief Jamie Zeckman, so we're excited to have her here as well. Next slide. Ann Rennie is our new Grants Manager in Institutional Advancement, and she comes with a number of years of experience as well. The next slide. Shatoria Wharton is an Office Assistant 2 in the Foundation and Institutional Advancement and comes with a number of years of experience as well. Sandra Cavett, she's our family coach for workforce and economic development. Next slide. Andrew Custer is our newest job development specialist. Next slide. Dr. Tia Freelix is our Director of Choice Neighborhoods Initiative. Next slide. And Katrina Ireland Torrey is a career navigator for workforce as well. So we welcome all of them and we're excited to have them on board.
Thank you, Rebecca. And that concludes the administrative report.
Thank you. Comments from the board? Mr. Reyes?
Yes, this evening, we started off at the trustee scholarship dinner, and it's always great to see these students that are given the scholarships that are in our name, and the talent that was present today, and just the excitement that these students had for getting the scholarship, for coming to Mott, and the various areas of study that they had was absolutely wonderful. So I want to thank the college for, Dr. Beverly and the college for inviting us to that. It was, again, a wonderful program.
Wendy?
This was my first time ever coming to one of those, and I absolutely loved it. I connected with the two girls that were there and their families. We actually exchanged phone numbers, and one of them invited me to her job to have some bubble tea. Jason, you know, I filled him in by the time he got to our table. But I loved it. I thought this was a great way for us to have that one-on-one time with those students. Thank you.
Jeff? Okay. Janet? Meeting's adjourned. There is no executive session.